Did you use AI for this? Maybe you know this question in a meeting when people ask you, did you use AI for this? Or you're sitting in the meeting and someone else gets asked, did you use AI for that? And immediately people say, no, wide open eyes. No, no, of course not. Of course not. Why do they say that? Well, because they know when they say I used AI, they, in best case, get shamed, or in worst case, someone's going to say, I expected you to do the work and you didn't do the work. We are in the age where AI shaming is a thing, and we have to talk about how problematic this can be. However, we also have to talk about when AI really cannot be used, because simply saying it's always okay to use AI, of course, is also not the answer. But first things first. One thing I have to address first. This podcast, and I just got the news about an hour ago before I'm recording this at the moment. This podcast went top 200, exactly on rank 200, which is the highest in the US. It went top 200 in the US. The United States of America, in the management category, it is the most competitive podcast market in the world. It is the most competitive category in the world, and we went top 200. And by the way, as a non-native speaker, I'm a non-native speaker, didn't buy any outreach. I didn't go to any private school, went to a public comprehensive school. Greetings to my former English teacher, Mrs. Freeby. You made this happen. You taught me English the hard way, but we made it somewhere as we see. Thank you very much to every single person supporting me here, because we see now that persistence actually beats anything else. This is a podcast which I'm doing basically from my desk wherever I am in the world at the moment when I'm recording it, and it went top 200 in the United States. Thank you very much for following me. Thank you very much for reporting to this. Share it far and wide. But now back to the topic of AI. We talk about AI shaming, and we have to talk about, is AI shaming okay? How do we deal with AI shaming? When should it end? And when actually is it sort of okay? So, the beginning and the end of AI shaming. Talking about the situation in which we are. So, why do people say, as soon as someone said, did you use AI? And people immediately go into freeze. And immediately after the freeze, which is about 1 millisecond, it's an immediate no, no, I didn't, no, no. And now here are three situations which I witnessed firsthand when people talked about this. So when this happened in one meeting room, leader at the table says, did you use AI? And the person said, yeah, I used it to optimize it. Oh, what? This is not your work. So you're giving us work which is not from you. So the person gets massively shamed at the desk. Shaming people for using AI is the equivalent to one thing. Let's say you build a house and someone said, "Oh, you build a house. Amazing. Congratulations. How did you actually dug the hole for the cellar?" And you say, "Well, I hired a company and they have machinery for this." Oh. Oh no, that's not how you do it. You need to dig it with your own hands. Otherwise, it's not really your house, is it? And of course, no one would ever say that because using modern means of technology in construction is absolutely normal. Yet we are still at the stage, as soon as something is new, someone shows up massively shaming people for using the most up-to-date technology. AI shaming is, in most cases, not okay. By the way, the other situation was where someone said, yes, they used AI to optimize their piece of work. And then the leadership said, and I quote word by word, I'm going to report you to HR. This is fraud to your employer. You get paid for your work, not to fiddle around with AI. And of course, massive shock at the table. And by the way, HR laughed all day long about that report and said, no, there's nothing wrong with that in this situation. Of course, there are certain situations where AI should not be used. I give you a very simple example here. When someone says, please write down your feelings, what do you think about the restructure? And you use AI, that was not the task. When someone says, hey, look, we're going to have an exam and the exam is going to be marked and leads to some sort of degree, use of AI is not allowed and you still use it. That is, of course, not allowed. No question about that. But when someone says, I put effort into this piece of work, and then I simply got feedback like a sparring partner from AI, and then you get shamed for it. The only thing that happens is because what leaders really think is when I shame them, they will stop using AI. And here are the news. They will not stop using AI. People will simply get smarter, or better to say, pseudo smarter, on how to cover up their usage of AI. And the cover ups are usually always the same. They take the result from AI, they copy paste it, then they add a couple of words, they delete some words, they put in a couple of typos so it looks more human, and then they make it from a formatting point of view look slightly awkward. So anyone will say, yeah, not a computer would have done it that way. And that's how they cover it up. When you want to have a trooper or a whole brigade of cover-ups, then you can be the leader shaming people for using AI. And by the way, the AI shaming situation often happens because leaders have not been professionally trained on the usage of AI. And I cannot stress this often enough. The 20-minute online class, which you do during your lunch break, is not going to make the cut. You need professional education on AI. If you don't get professional education, you will fail. Full stop. No exception. I got my education from University of Pennsylvania, Wharton Business School, Vanderbilt University. Massive effort, however, massive reward as well. I'm now being admitted to an MBA in AI, which I'm doing right now. So I invested heavily into this. If you need help, let me know. But simply telling people, oh, you have to figure out your way, no, that's not how anything goes. And of course, we have to talk about one thing. There is a slightly problematic aspect with AI. When people are over relying on it, I give you a very simple approach. Let's say I tell you, please make a go-to-market strategy. We want to enter the market XYZ. And you only put a bunch of AI slop pieces on my table. I would say, look, I could have done that by myself. Because when is AI prevalent and when should humans be? When there's something which is predetermined, when you say everything by science is actually research, we are, at least at the moment, at the frontier of developments. There's nothing new, everything is known, and then you can simply ask AI how to do it. Perfect. However, when I say, how do we get into a market? I want to know, what are your networks? Which industry contacts do you have? Which people do you know? How do we get into the regulation thing? Do you know anyone in politics? Do we have anyone who actually represents our interest locally? Do we have connections to local markets? Do we have sales representatives? How does local marketing work? What is the culture like? How is our brand perceived there? All of this is something which AI can never, ever do. Because that is something where humans will always prevail. The problem is when someone is becoming over reliant. And by the way, when you become over relying on AI, then probably people will reconsider if you are the best pick for the job. We need the perfect alignment. We need alignment where people say, this is where we use AI, and this is where we do not use AI, and this is where we bring it all together. I give you a very simple example here. If you, and I used it just recently, when someone says, okay, we have a big training program, and I'm going to give you an anonymous example here. Let's say we are a noodle factory based in London in the UK. We produce noodles. Could you please give us a quote for leadership training? And of course, I create the quote and the whole proposal, the whole draft action plan then. After I've done this, I go to AI and say, let's imagine you're a noodle company in central London in the UK. This is my proposal. Of course, there is no specific personalized data in there. Please give me feedback on this proposal. And I use this every single time. And every single time, the result becomes better and better. Every single time, the proposal gets better afterwards. And by the way, with this proposal, with the noodle company from London, I said, please rate my proposal and action plan on a scale from 1, which is extremely poor, to 10, which is outstanding. And it said 5.5. So 5.5 is not great. So what's lacking? And I said this. And at the end of about an hour later, which probably in my own wish it would have taken me 3 days, which I didn't have, by the way, because the proposal needed to be out next day. So at the end, it was 9.1 out of 10. And when you now say, why not 10 out of 10? Because AI suggested a couple of things which AI think is great, which I consider the typical ego story of speakers. So, oh, I'm the most amazing hero. And when AI says, put this in there, no, I won't. I won't. This is not my brand. This is not me. This is nothing I'm going to do. So I stay with a 9.1 because it's the best fit for my brand and the client as an alignment. So you see, you don't have to do absolutely everything AI tells you. However, when you simply shame people or you become over-relying and you have no alignment, then your results in comparison with the market next to you, with people who are also in the market, don't want to call them competitors, but people who also are in the market selling similar services to you, your results will go down. Not because your results get worse, but your, let's say, market companion results become way better. And you have to catch up with that. The quicker, the better. And of course, I know what people will now say. Look, Niels, the whole AI thing, I'm not trusting it because AI has hallucinations. Let's look into science here. And first, you are right, AI has hallucinations. According to Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania, 0.7% of the data you get are hallucinations. And by the way, humans have 7%. So that's 10 times as much. Let's just imagine if anyone would say, oh, humans have hallucinations, so we can't have humans at the meeting table, right? Can't be. No, no, absolutely not. However, as soon as you say we should have humans at the table, and basically there's an extra chair at the table right now, which is AI, and you should use AI within meetings. There are companies, when I suggest you should use AI in meetings, they look at me like I'm the exorcist in person. So when you do not use AI in meetings, you lose a lot of benefits because what you can do is, of course, you can check results together. And by the way, checking results, as soon as people say, oh, when I have to check the results, then I don't need AI because then I can do everything by myself. Okay, here are the news. If you want to look up something, and let's say you want to look up 100 hotels in 10 different cities, and you get a list and you background check it and two are wrong, if you find 100 hotels in 10 cities with 98 correct hotels which are a match for your search, and you do it quicker than AI, meaning quicker than 60 seconds, I would give you a promotion and a salary raise. Hint, you won't. So check results, use the prompts, talk about great experiences, but also talk about the hallucinations, the bad pieces or things that you saw where you thought that's an AI suggestion and I still don't like it, which is why we're not going to put it in there. The result will always be better. The best result is never humans on their own. However, the best result also is never AI on their own. When a human produces something and then you put AI on top of it, and then human, and then AI, and so on and so forth, you will get results you have never seen before in your life. Because when you do it this way, as I just described, you will have the massive advantage that you will not only have an assisted intelligence, you will have AI at the table at your fingertips every single time, not as a replacement, but as an assistance. And that's what we're looking for. When you implement it that way, the results in your organization will get way better and AI shaming will come to an end. I wish you all the best putting that in your organization. And when you now say, look, I actually need to talk about a couple of things, feel free to do so. I'm happy to talk to you. When you now look at this and on YouTube, feel free to leave a like there or subscribe to my channel. You can also leave a comment here. I'm always happy to discuss things with you. When you listen to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a review, 5 stars. Thank you very much for doing so. And of course, recommend this channel, friends, colleagues, online, offline, anywhere. We are top 200 in the US after 6 years in the business. That's a massive achievement. Thank you very much for your support. Of course, we will want to go further. I'm looking forward to seeing you absolutely anywhere there. So, and of course, when you now say, hey, do you have something which is a bit more than weekly? We do. We have leadership tips every single week. Not only me, you don't have to endure my voice every day. And we have interviews with external experts, hand selected. I receive a couple of hundred pitches every month, hand selected experts, also people who I invite, who I get in contact with. You get all of that on the YouTube Shorts, as the name says, only available on YouTube. So it pays off not only to subscribe to the channel, but also put the little bell in there, because as soon as you do that, you will get a tiny notification and see when something new is online. And that's actually where the magic happens. By the way, I promised you there's one leadership tip every single day. Kept the promise. We are already over the 1 tip per day. So you will get a constant level of expertise. We recently talked to the HR executive of NASA. So we really have massive experts on there. I just interviewed an AI expert on the matter of who is leading when AI is thinking. All of that is available on the channel right now, including YouTube Shorts. So it really pays off to actually put the little bell in there so you always get the update. Of course, you can also follow me on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Feel free to do so. When you now say, hey, we need someone in our business, a trainer, a speaker, coach, consultant, mentor, a project or interim manager, feel free to contact me. nb-networks.biz is my website. And when you want to drop me an email, nb@nb-networks.com. I'm always looking forward to hearing from you there. When you want live sessions, yes, we got them. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, then you can put your email address there. And no worries, it's only one email every week, Wednesday morning, just one email, 100% content, ad-free guarantee. It's all content, no advertising. When you now say, and by the way, only in the leadership letter, nowhere else do we communicate the live sessions. You do not find them anywhere else. It's an exclusive for our readers. And by the way, you get full access to all the articles, all the podcasts, videocasts, everything. More than 500 episodes online in the English and German language, everything accessible just via the leadership letter and only via the leadership letter. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. If you want to have a private session with me, feel free to do so as well. Just answer to the expert letter or drop me to the leadership letter or drop me an email and then we take it from there. We have a couple of organizations who have very specific questions, then we do privates, no problem at all. Looking forward to seeing you there. And of course, connect with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, do the proper connect. You can follow me on Instagram, you can leave a like on Facebook, or you can simply also subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Very important is when you get in touch, no worries. I answer every single message within 24 hours or less, so a quick answer is absolutely guaranteed. Of course, the most important aspect is always the last point that I say. Apply, apply, apply what you heard in this podcast, on this podcast or videocast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspects that you obviously want to see in your organization. I wish you all the best doing so. And at the end of this podcast, as well as at the end of this videocast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.